coach shows them like this was the play and what happened with this play. It's like with a marching band, it's like pivot turn here, pivot turn there, pivot turn, and that's all I can remember is like
Yeah.
when our leader, she was telling us, pivot turn, and that's what life does for us. It causes us to pivot and turn, and that's the transformation part, of life. It's like the butterfly. It's like the life cycle of the butterfly. If you look at the life cycle, of the butterfly, and I think not think, but the life cycle of the butterfly is such a powerful phase.
Yeah.
If you look at where it starts at, it starts out on a leaf, and it actually eats that leaf. So it doesn't have to worry about what do I have to eat. So it's like when you wake up in the morning, part of that transformation process is you waking up in the morning and knowing that I don't have to worry about certain things. Like, but there has to be a plan. And so when that butterfly is sitting on that leaf, that's its food. Like it eats the leaf. And then after it eats the leaf, it goes into the next phase. And then after it goes into the next phase, it goes into all of its phases till it goes into the cocoon. And when it's inside of the cocoon, you cannot see what's happening. With transformation, when you face adversities, you cannot see the end result. But on the inside, you can feel the change.
Yeah. Oh, you give me goosebumps.
The change, listen, and so there are some things that you have to do like the butterfly does. There are some things that the butterfly does, right? Like in that phase. And in that phase, the butterfly is not complaining. It's not backing up and saying, hey, no, I don't want to go into the cocoon. It's not time for me to. No, it goes along with the flow.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learned, like with transformation. That's something that I've learned with trauma. Like you learn to go with the flow. You know, it's like if you were to, like a storm or something was coming your way, you learn to take shelter. And if you get caught in that storm, there is a way out of that. And so that is why I exist, because that butterfly, that I keep telling people. I used to teach children years ago, and when we went through that particular life cycle, because there are so many different life cycles in this world. But if you look at the life cycle of the butterfly and that transformation, it starts off as a caterpillar with no wings. It's walking, like it's walking on the leaf. It needs the leaf in order for it to eat, and then it go, and
Predators
it's
can get it.
exactly, and it goes through those, and it's like when it comes out. If you look at the mini butterflies, the colors come out. They're so beautiful in the way they flutter and they fly, and so you go in walking, but you come out flying.
Ooh, yeah.
And so that's the thing about trauma. Trauma informed approach, trauma informed leadership, innovating others, empowering, other people, building, that resilience, and letting people know, hey, I'll say this, Aaliyah sung a song, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. And it's really true. Like, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, she's literally talking about, if you fail at something, you better fail at something, honestly. And I've learned that in business as well. Fail at it so you can go back and see what it is that I can do that I did not do before. How can I perfect on this? What are some things that I can do to perfect on or to add on? How can I use this to add value to others? And that was my thing, with starting Zealists. What can I do to add value to other people? And when you're adding value to other people, you're creating something that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're creating innovators, and you're pouring into something. You're pouring something into others. It's like you're planting a seed, and you sit back and you watch that seed grow. And in its due season, every season, like the watermelon, it grows in its season. The rose, it blooms in its season. The orchids, they bloom in their season. They don't come out before their time. If they do, then it's damaged. It's something that cannot be used. And so we need to understand that as a society, we are valuable. You know, you don't belong everywhere, but you belong somewhere, you know, in this world, you know. And if when you find out what your position is, you keep pivoting and you keep turning until you find out where in this space do I belong. I don't belong over here. I belong over here. I belong right here. And this is where I'm going to stay, because this is what works for me. This is where I bloom, and I bloom where I'm planted. And so that's, you know, that's basically who Zealist is, you know. And then, you know, I created like these self-empowerment, you know, toolkits, you know, as well. And they're basically like self-help books to help you to reflect on, like, I am encouraged. I am, like, you got to believe. You have to, you have to believe it. Like, I actually used like this toolkit, and I sent it to this lady, and I was like, hey, this is where I want you to start, right? I want you to start right here and give me some feedback. I always ask people, like, anytime I give them any of my, you know, products, and I share it with them for free, because I want people to understand, and I want them to know that this is where you start. Start right here, you know. So this toolkit, it empowers people, and I want people to understand that, you know, with this toolkit and with this journey, you know, there are affirmations that you have to use. You got to repeat this stuff over and over and over again in your head. You know, you got to dump the trash out, you know, and you got to also, too, you got to get around people that are supportive as well. Get around people that are like-minded. And even though, you know, I have friends and things of that sort, but there were some friends that they didn't understand, like when I was starting a business, they couldn't relate. They were like, yeah, congratulations, but they couldn't relate, you know, because my experiences were not, you know, the same as theirs, even though we had some, you know, some trauma in our lives. And I just came up like, hey, say these aloud each day to remind yourself of your strength. I'm not my past. You know, I am my purpose. My voice matters. You have to tell yourself these things. I dare to heal and grow. You know, God has not forgotten me. I am becoming who I'm meant to be. You know, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of peace and prosperity, you know. And then, you know, I give them this thing where it says, hey, let's do an emotional check-in. And the emotional check-in piece of it is, hey, you use this space weekly or daily, and this is where the writing part comes in, you know. Today I feel, and you tell yourself, how do you feel? Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you hopeful? You know, what triggered this feeling? You know, what's making you to feel this way? And what do I need right now? In this moment, what do I need right now? Do I need anything? And these are some things that, you know, you use to self-reflect on and you think about. One thing I can do for myself. And these are some of the things that are in like the self-empowerment toolkit. These are some of the things I use just to get people started. Self-discovery prompts. What am I proud of today? What did you do today to make yourself proud? And I tell people, pat yourself on the back. You know, give yourself a round of an applause. You deserve it. Yes, you deserve it. So what do I want to let go of? Are there some things that I need to let go of? Yes. And so what would I do if I weren't afraid? You know, that boldness, you know, that's within. But it takes the right person to come along in your path to bring whatever that is that's lying dormant on the inside of you, and to bring the best version of you out of you. And so how can I show up for myself this week? You know, who am I becoming? You know, and then from trauma to triumph, you know, it's the goal map. You know, my biggest challenge right now is, you know, we all have challenges. You know, we all face obstacles. And when we're standing and looking at this big old mountain, and it's like, you know, on that mountain is, you know, your hindrance, and I'm not good enough, or am I not enough? And you begin to speak to this mountain and you say, I am enough. I'm bold. I was meant to do this. And the more you speak to the mountain, the more it crumbles and it comes down. And you level it, and it becomes a level playing field. Well, now that mountain that was tall standing before you, you now leveled it to the point to where now I'm walking through this mountain that stood before me, these challenges, these obstacles and things of that sort. So it's like, what's the one step I would take this week? Like a dream I'm ready to commit to. What's the dream that God placed on the inside of you? People dream all the time, but there is a greater dream on the inside of you. There's a vision that God has given you that you have not yet tapped into. And exactly.
When you're awake.
Ex-
I had that on my bracelet.
what's the vision? Right.
I had it so long it's faded away.
It's don't allow it to fade away. You got to keep drilling it. Keep drilling it. I'm going to say this. When I was an educator, right, we talked about Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the whole that whole area, Qatar, Bahrain, that whole Arabian Peninsula. That's what it's called, the Arabian Peninsula. And so we learned about the Saudis, and they were talking about the Saudi women and how a lot of them were not allowed to have an education, and some of them couldn't even go outside without a man. And if you were found outside without a man, then you were stoned to death. There were some women who were burned inside of a school for going outside without an uncle, without a nephew. You had to be with a man because it's male dominated. Here in America, it's a little more lenient, but it's more so still a male dominated world if we look at the real aspect of it. And so they are a people who, and the reason why they are so successful, and I love that group, I love them. The reason why they're so successful is this. They used to be nomads, right? Back in the 30s. They were nomads. And nomads are people that travel from place to place. They don't have anywhere to go, nowhere to land. And it's like you're here one day and then the next day you pick up and you're here. So it's like you're setting your tent in desert places. So what they started doing was, as a group of people, they started to drill. And for 30 years, they roamed around as nomads. And they drilled down in the land. And one day they struck oil. And they dug so deep that they are now called, or they are recognized as being owners of OPEC, OPC, oil, petroleum, that's who they are now. It took them 30 years. But if you look at their economy right now, that's why I call this the economy of transformation. If you look at their economy right now, and the things, look at Dubai, look at the buildings that they built, look at the accomplishments they've made. It may take you some time to get there, but there's a spot that you need to land at. And when you land at that spot, you stay there, you be consistent, and you keep working until you find out what works for you. And whatever it is that you're consistent with and you're staying, you have to stay there. Even when nobody is cheering you on, nobody is giving you accolades, no one is around to support you and say, hey, you're doing a great job. You have to be your greatest encourager. And so yes, you have to believe in yourself, or it won't. When people are not telling you that it's going to work, it's going to work. You have to believe in your mind. That's the transformation. It starts here. What do you believe? In spite of people, how many times have you been rejected? Listen at Les Brown. Listen at his story. How many times when he was rejected? He said, my middle name became rejection. He was like, you have to look at Disney, Walt Disney. It took them 20. Yeah. Do you know how many banks turned them off? Yeah. How many times they were rejected? They are now owner of everything. Over the world. People are coming from all over the world to see Walt Disney. So it's one of those kind of things where he had this dream and he knew. Dr. Seuss, look at his books. They thought he was strange. They thought he was weird. He was having dreams, those animals that's in his books. He said that he would have dreams of those animals. People thought he was weird. He came from a well-to-do family, like, and he started like with the news editing, like in his paper, and then somebody came along and they, you know, said some things to make him look like he was incredible, to ruin his credibility. People will come along and do that along the way, but he's Dr. Seuss now. His books are known all over the world. Children, even now, our generations now, green eggs and ham, the cat in the hat, things of that sort. So we got to believe in that dream that's on the inside of us, even when others are not believing in us, even when people reject us, even when people turn us down and say no, even when you're ignored. So you have to, be like that butterfly. You have to stay consistent. And that's what it's all about. That's what Zealists is all about. That's what transformation is all about. And yes, so you have to understand that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not. You're not alone. So
You touched on something too right there where I remembered somebody saying that your subconscious doesn't know the difference between a lie and the truth. It just knows the evidence you feed it.
mhm.
So if you're telling yourself in your head, if you're presenting like, oh, I want this and that, but in your head you're thinking, I still deserve it, I'm
Mhm.
not gonna be good at it, your reality isn't gonna match.
Right.
It's gonna be misaligned. It's
Right.
gonna be
Right. Absolutely.
confused.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
So
yes, your energy is
yeah.
definitely needed here
Yeah.
and is supported through everybody that has spoken similar things, right? And it's crazy to me because life happens for a reason, and I feel like I keep getting podcasters that are speaking to me in a way, but also like reinforcing what other people have said.
Mhm.
But it's also these people are successful, and these people have, maybe not everything figured out, but their mindset.
Right. 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 And you have to, like, I too, like at home, like I have post-it notes. If you come into my home, you'll see post-it notes all around. And I've revisited those post-it notes because those post-it notes and things of that sort, like I'm fearless, I am amazing, I am educated, I'm a woman, I'm a queen. You call those things that be not as though they were, like as if you were already sitting in that position. Like, yeah, you have to, like, if you don't position yourself and if you don't believe who you are, nobody else is going to believe you. You got to believe it, when nobody else is believing you, when nobody else is believing in you. And so, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a way you can make a copy of this? I wanted to share this with you. It's called the Daily Confessions. I am blessed of the Lord, the blessed is, and it talks about, so I am daily and continuously activating this blessing. And it talks about my sphere of influence is greatly increased, and I am relevant to my world. As a result of the blessing, I am conscious and aware of this blessing everywhere I go. Um, people run around me to do me good. The covenant God has with me declares that whatsoever blesses me is blessed, and whosoever curses me is cursed. And so people have to understand I am permanently blessed. I'm blessed forever. These are some of the things that should be resounding and ringing out, in the minds and in the hearts of people, even on those, giving up days, even on those challenging days. When you wake up in the morning, you realize, hey, I'm here again. Okay, I got another opportunity to make this day great again. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
you shared with me.
Absolutely.
I also listen to affirmations when I wake up,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still learning.
Have you ever written a love letter to yourself?
No. Anything I can do to keep improving.
I haven't written one to myself either, but it's some things that we need to do. Write a love letter to you. You are amazing. You are an amazing woman. And watch how people gravitate.
The energy you put out.
Yes.
Same energy you're gonna get back.
Exactly. Watch how you gravitate towards that. So, yeah. And that's the segment for today.
Okay.
You're not alone.
Any other gems you want to drop?
The last thing I want to say is this is a starting point to reflecting on your courage to grow. You know, keep moving forward. You keep marching forward. Healing takes time. It takes a lot of time. I know that. I've buried several family members. One year I was going through a time span where my mother passed away, and then a few years later my brother passed away. He was only 28 years old. He died of bone cancer. My mother had died of a car accident. And then after that, like, my grandmother had taken ill, but my daddy had passed away, and then after that my grandmother passed, and it was like, that was part of my trauma. And I'm still here today, and that was more than what, it's going on almost 2.5 decades ago, that I've experienced that. So healing takes time, but every step you take is a seed of strength. It really is. And if this helped anyone, you share it with someone else who may need it, and if you'd like to support us, then you can most definitely support us in empowering more lives, like yours, like mine, and like others out there, who is part of, the healing process, who has faced, trauma, and who's saying, I don't have a way out and I don't have any hope. Yes, you do. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Sorry about that, but it's amazing that you don't let anger get to you too.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've had my days.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've had my days, and that's something too, that God literally had to deal with me on. Velma, you cannot, and that's what I didn't realize, like, in the process, because what I did was to cover up, that pain and that trauma was I worked a lot, and when I wasn't working, I was sleeping, and sometimes I would even force myself to go to sleep. I would order like a Goodies PM and like, hey, I'll just the next day. And God really had to deal with me, Nellie, and say, Velma, this is something I need you to deal with. If you don't deal with this, you will not. The people that are out there waiting on you are going to continue to go and live in cycles of seasons of regret, setbacks, disappointments. You got to heal. And when you heal, then you'll be able to heal others.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the thing about it. So, yeah.
Uplift one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.